Welcome back to another Conscious Mind conversation with myself and the incredible Sally. Hi, Sally. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. Still pondering and unpacking your last session, which it feels so intriguing for uh, so many ways, so much information in there, and yet it still sort of feels like we're prying into your own personal life. There was so much private information, really, and we were just on the journey with you.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those sessions where afterward it was just like, wow, they literally took me through so much. And it was scene after scene. And um, I'm just actually glad I surrendered. I was able to surrender and allow it to progress because I do feel like in these sessions, the information that comes through publicly is meant to be heard.
Without a doubt. And I think this is why Dolores Cannon herself made sure you got in contact with me. And it's
Mhm.
always an incredible it's always an incredible client when it's driven by Dolores. So I am very grateful to not only you, Sally, but to the incredible Dolores Cannon, because she makes this role that I'm playing so much more easier, for sure.
Yeah, I just find it so amazing that she brought us together and we both knew it. So thank you, Dolores.
In terms of your first session, I thought it was a fantastic, incredible experience and journey. I thought you did surrender really well the first time, given how, if you want to try and manipulate the sessions or control it, or if you're afraid or you resist it or you're in doubt, that just sort of adds a layer of blocking. And while the subconsciouses do not lie to us about the information, the human ego can definitely block and limit the information. And I feel like I always get such an incredible insight into your own sessions. So I can't even comprehend how it has been for you with these last sessions that we've been doing together.
Yeah, and then it's not just I mean, I get the visuals, I do, and then not just the visuals, but the feelings associated with it, and then they provide the vocabulary to explain it. So it's all quite incredible.
Even people who don't get visuals, the emotions still come very loud. And people can say just a few words um, during their components of certain session parts, but what they're feeling is so profound, it's undeniable. And it kind of gives them the proof when they listen back that they're observing a random life that feels so familiar to them but yet so foreign at the same time. And when they have connections to people in their other lifetimes, and they're crying and they are just or they can even have, oh, I don't like that person kind of thing. It's so rich, full of experiences. And I really recommend everyone trying to get their own sessions because of how rich and powerful and profound identifying those emotions. Now, what you said after that session the other day was the way that Mary felt towards Jesus and his death, his exit point, versus the mother that you were in that parallel life experience, who lost her son, and you were saying it was exactly identically the same feeling. And I just assumed losing a son or a child, a family member, or even a friend in those circumstances, I'm wondering if it would ring true the same feelings again and again and again.
Hmm. Yes, and I remember mentioning that those two dreams were just as, they were both so emotionally impactful to me. And it kind of was surprising that they had the exact same emotions associated with them. And the crying, when I woke up, I was, just shaken afterwards because of how intense both of those dreams were.
Mm. I'm wondering if the parallel life, if because I wonder if she had the imprint of Mary too, and if this was to prepare her for the physical experience that she was going to have with her son.
Mm. That's a very intriguing thought, and I would not be surprised. Um, just because I felt with that dream, I felt very connected to those two dreams emotionally, and it
Yeah.
was like, wow.
It's so incredible that we are so connected in with our parallel lives. And I've had quite a few clients who have had similar experiences of profound dreams that were unshakable. They could still get choked up or scared or have some effective impact from a dream, and they don't even want to talk about it because it's in their inner work closet to do list. They will deal with it later, and so when you hadn't wanted to talk to me about one of the dreams, but that was the one with Mary. It was someone being crucified,
Mm-hmm.
and it was on the back of your mind. Like I probably should talk about that, but it was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet, kind of thing. Just because, not because you're like, well, I'm definitely Mary, but it was more like, I don't know if I can go back through those emotions again because it's traumatizing. But do you feel now that when you reflect on those dreams from after having the healing in the sessions, do you feel like there is a difference now when you recall?
Going through the emotions again and seeing it in a different way, and understanding why I had them and where it's coming from definitely helps. Yes, it's almost like understanding more about who I am and why, the why, of everything. And I'm gonna admit I cried about it today with the that dream of the mother with the son, because um it still was, emotionally touching me, because it's a big deal, and I was going through it with her.
I think all who listened went with it, and it was hard as a practitioner to and a friend to just feel that mother's pain. Like I wanted to just pause the session, have a big cry, and then get back into it. But obviously, I needed to support and think to move forward, to not dismiss the feelings, but to be able to figure out the purpose and the lessons and the reasons and the significances and all that stuff. But seriously, when that son came in and was laughing and it was like, you guys take it so seriously, I was like, you just put your mother through hell, young man. Like, I wanted to be like, you know.
Right. And he was laughing. He was like so happy, and he was like, what's the big deal here?
Ugh, because we love you. We all love you, and we cried because of your loss. And we put ourselves the best we could emotionally in his mother's position, to to just try to send her love. And it's such a big deal. Um, it's most parents' worst nightmares to see something like that. Our children should be safe and around their homes, and to have something so out of the blue like this. I mean, I'm sure being in that location, they probably are very aware of certain things that have happened around them potentially, but it doesn't justify it. Hope you didn't mind me being curious about what was the impact of those people who had actually killed him by making those choices to deliver the bomb, or was it a missile?
They didn't show me what it was. It just blew up. They showed me where the boys were playing, and they showed me it's like in like a little town, very off in nowhere, and the explosion, and then the boys flying, and they didn't really show me much else with what it was. I think if we asked like specifically, they probably would have zeroed in on it. I'm sure they would have, if there was a reason to, of course. But yeah, it was just very, yeah, it was just the way that the American soldiers felt there was, they didn't want to be there. They did not want to be there. They were literally like scared, and it was like they were forced to be there, and they did not want to do it.
It was interesting what they said, because I don't think you've got any military background or people that that are in the military. Is that correct?
No, yeah, that's correct. No.
And I thought it was so interesting what they said was they sort of signed up to do these roles and take on these missions for these promised educations or positions or something that they were promised that they would get out of it, but yet that didn't unfold for them.
It was like they were showing me, they were promised this great career with benefits and like for their family, and what they got instead was this unnecessary fighting. And it was actually kind of sad. It was like they didn't want it. They didn't want to see that. They don't want to kill anyone. They didn't want to be killed. It was
It was very sad. Yeah, very, very sad. And it seemed like with the boys' attitude, who was finding it amusing that we were so sort of emotionally reactive to it. I mean, it kind of made me realize, yeah, Joe, sort your shit out. Like, I'm crying for this boy. I really was crying for the mother. But if this boy is laughing and saying it was all purposeful, like you're being so dramatic with your emotions because, this was just one of my many mothers and my many lifetimes. And, it kind of, he gave us the bigger perspective, even though it was definitely hard to listen to.
I appreciated it too. It's like it went from the sadness of the mother to all of a sudden snapping into his energy because he came through and he was laughing and like, why are you guys taking this so seriously? This isn't real. Don't you get it? It's it was really the energy just like fluctuated within seconds, and I don't know if I've experienced that before. I might have, but it was just very strong because it was like super sad to like boom happy and like get over it. It's like wow.
Yeah, it's like thanks for that. You sort of he's making us be more mature about it. But during
Yeah.
the time, because it was healing and releasing. What I would love, Sally, is to know if the woman who experienced it, this healing that we were able to give her through the session, helped her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that he said that he's always with her. She feels him. I mean, that's. And then I think I felt terrible that I didn't even expand into send healing to all the mothers who have experienced that, because he wasn't the only child. There was two others. Is that right?
Yeah, they didn't zero in on them. They just, it was almost like my dream. Just zeroed in on the mother and the son. But I mean, we have more sessions, and I'm sure it's almost like when you send out that energy, I almost feel like it does kind of like do like a ripple effect across the entire planet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we hope so. And it is encouraging because weren't you remarking that in your holiday festive times, because we've done so much sessions privately as well, and we've um, focused on some of your family members, and you noticed that there is now a difference. Um, do you feel like it's just because you're different, or do you truly feel like it's different because they've got some healing through these sessions?
Definitely through the sessions. Yeah. And it's really interesting because during the holiday season, because usually with certain family members, I don't feel I wasn't feeling very comfortable in the past, because I can feel energy and I can sense when someone's thinking something about me, but then saying something else. So and I can sense it. And so I don't know, it was weird. It's almost like I was like way more empowered when I was around them this time. And they seemed more um less condescending, I guess you could say, more relaxed as well. It was very interesting and it all went well and everything was good. And it was nice because I was like, I know these sessions are part of this. It's not just coincidence.
And because they are not listening to these sessions, it's kind of remarkable how they've had some of their density and pressure removed as we send love to many of them. And I see this time and time again, and I love that you notice this as well. People do sessions with me, and we work on their husbands or their children, and we get clarification on what's going on for them. And the husbands and the family members and the kids do respond well to these sessions, even though they do not consciously know it. And it's like we're using our free will to help. Of course, if there was something that they were supposed to learn themselves and grow and overcome themselves, because it's life contract, of course we can't tamper with that even if we beg.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible what we can, what what support, what profound healing these sessions can do, not just for the one client, but for many that they love, which it's extraordinary. I can't think of any other types of sessions or work that can be so profound.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I love doing these sessions. I find them to be a gift. I find them to be healing. Um, and yeah, it's interesting because it doesn't just affect the person in the session, it affects everybody around them, and then even the people hearing the sessions and then their families. It's it's so it's just amazing this work. It really is. I'm like so thankful I stumbled upon it. So
Yeah, it's purposeful who listens to these sessions and why, and it's very very cool. Um, Again, it just sounds like it must sound like random hype when people hear us talking about it. And this is why I say find your own practitioner. Interns around the world are free, and have your own personal experience so you can understand the power of connecting into your subconscious and channeling your higher dimensional counterpart for profound wisdom that most people couldn't even guess. And as you said, that when you're unfolding and learning about all these other lifetimes you've had, you're getting to know yourself more. And I love that so much, because we all want to understand what makes us react and feel certain things and think certain things. And it is so extraordinary to learn how impactful our other lifetimes truly are on us.
yeah, I had no idea. I never even I didn't really understand what parallel lives were until recently. I had no clue what they were. I didn't even really know that they actually existed. I've read about it before, maybe like, a couple of years ago, but I never really, it's like once you experience it, you're like, oh, wow, that makes sense. No wonder, no wonder that dream. Because I feel like people have a lot of dreams and they just like me, they just think, oh, it's just a dream, there's nothing much to it. Yet there is so much there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And while we now can respect that imprint lives matters, they're very powerful. Now we also know about walk-in lives are very powerful, and parallel lives are very powerful. Any experience in a lifetime is powerful, and this is the blessing and the privilege that we get to experience having these lives. And I am so grateful to be learning with everyone else as well about the importance and significance of these things. And you just I just don't think people could listen to your last session and have any like thoughts of, ugh, she's faking it, because those emotions are so real. You can feel them. They are, and the crying in one breath, being the mother and feeling the mother's trauma, and then in the next breath, being laughing at that little boy. You can feel the energy shift. You can hear when you are breathing in the consciousness of the boy. And you know people don't understand sometimes how these sessions work. And when you listen to the breath, when you inhale, it's like you're inhaling the conscious mind of, say, that little boy. And then you let you receive the little boy, and then you hear the exhale, and then you hear the intake of the breath, which is then the calling back of the subconscious. And it feels like this big energy shift within you when you're doing these sessions, that there is a difference between who's coming in and what's happening. And I remember Dolores Cannon often just jumping into sessions, but she wouldn't introduce herself. But I knew, oh, this is Dolores. She's just come in to speak. And I remember one time thinking to her, you should really introduce yourself, because it just sounds like it's the collective's information. And then I think she was like, oh, I think I've just been told to tell everyone who I am. Like, you know, it was because I remember listening back to the sessions, it just sounded like one being's account and opinion being channeled. But I realized, there was like four different collectives speaking and then Dolores. But you wouldn't have known, not that it even really matters, it's the same higher dimensional information. So I'm sure, it doesn't really matter. And I think I was just concerned that people may have got confused, um, and they didn't even need to know who was saying what. The information's still very, 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 very valid.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And that's very true. When you mentioned the breath, um, because when the subconscious comes in the very beginning of the session, there's a big inhale inward, and it's like the subconscious energy goes in and takes over.
Mm.
And like the breath is definitely the key. It's like in and out, whoever wants to come in and talk.
Mm. Even though energy is invisible, we can feel it, and we have to absorb it in, and it kind of overcomes us to then be ready to connect in. And again, when you have your own session, you'll know what we're talking about, but you can hear it in sessions very clearly. And this is when I know, when I'm listening to other people's sessions from other practitioners, there is this other method that's going around. And the one session that I've seen so far of this other method, the client is in a relaxed state, but it's only talking through ego. It is not a higher dimensional being's information. And I could, there's so many little telltale signs that I know. And I just thought it was very interesting, because it was saying some very questionable statements, like only the young souls are only the young souls have got vaccinated and all the old souls haven't got vaccinated. And I know for a fact that is not true. And so there was, there was some positive statements and some, some good comments, but I deeply knew that that was definitely ego and opinion of the client.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't hearing the breath and the intake of a higher dimensional being. And she was referring to herself in her own, like it wasn't the subconscious, it was talking about herself and using her own pronouns. And I just was like, yeah, she's not deep enough. And I know that there is a lot of other quantum sessions where the clients just relax, but is just got the confidence to speak for its own opinions. And it's definitely not a higher dimensional perspective.
Mm. So is that the practitioner is not putting the person under enough?
I don't know if the script is putting it under, but yeah, I haven't scrutinized the script, but I was realizing, it was quite clearly the difference.
Mm.
It's just the same with it's just like with QHHT sessions and BQH sessions, you can also get the same thing because the the first part of the QHHT sessions, the client is talking through their conscious mind about other lifetimes, and then you call in the subconscious, and you call them in, and they come in and share their higher perspective and wisdom, and it's definitely a different component. It's not the ego speaking anymore. It's not your client's ego speaking anymore. But with BQH sessions, most practitioners don't know how to call in the subconscious because it's not really sort of taught in the BQH course. And so some of the BQH sessions that I've been listening to is really just the person's ego, conscious mind having an experience. It's still very valid, but it would not be able to get, say, conscious. It wouldn't be able to get in the full subconscious's opinion, like to have it fully taking over, or say like the collectives. But again, it just depends on the practitioner and what they ask for, and if the client has heaps of inner work and really important things that they need to address, it will just all come out in session, So I think that's the hardest thing for a viewer. When you're just listening to sessions, you don't know how much baggage that client or that practitioner has. And so, you have to sort of take it as this is their personal session. If I can learn from it or have a different perspective, that is fantastic. But it's not, I almost want to sort of say it's not our truth, because our truth could be something different because we may come from a different collective and all that stuff. So again, for the fourth time, having your own sessions, everyone must be able to find a local intern practitioner to help them with their training, and for you to be able to at least get all of your inner work, covered and healed, and think about some family members that also need some love and support.
Mm-hmm.
Treat yourself and some friends, while helping humanity, while helping practitioners, while helping yourself.
Such, such a great idea. Yeah, highly recommend it.
Mm.
And you will definitely see results. And listen back to the sessions. I'm not sure why people don't want to, but I think that's really important, because then like you get the confirmation of what happened, and then the information that you were not hearing because you were in the session, you actually, it goes by so quick, and you're really not present. You're not remembering much. So it's like, to hear it back is important. I mean, the sessions are what, 2 hours, and I feel like it's 15, 20 minutes and I don't remember anything, just a few pictures.
I was reading Custodians today by Dolores Cannon, and she was also commenting on how many people would not listen back to their sessions. They would get the tape, the cassette tape that she would give them, and and they would just put it in a drawer. And it kind of surprised her that it's such profound information. Here she is, desperately gagging for lots of information and wisdom and all this stuff, and she's dedicated most of her, the last 45 years of her life to it. And these clients that are helping her with her journey aren't even bothered to listen back. And literally just heard that today from her. So it's it's common. They often say that the client needs to listen to the session 3 times, because the first time you hear it, you're really in the session, so you're experiencing that, you cannot process it. The second time you listen to it, or the actual first time you listen to it after the experience, it's quite overwhelming because there's so much details to it, and you've still got the you're still connecting all the dots of the significance of the first lifetime, and or the first lifetimes, or whatever experiences, and then to see how that has formed and shaped you today. There's lots of epiphanies when you listen back to your own sessions, and so they say, so hear it, process it, have those epiphanies, learn a little bit, grow a little bit, and then go back and you'll be able to hear a completely different new layer of information that you weren't able to process the first time.
Yeah. And just like other things too, like sometimes they'll like throw in like random words within the session that I didn't really speak. It wasn't like so you'll hear things that you're like, oh wow, that's interesting, or it'll bring back like a visual, like it's really incredible actually, and I always listen back, always.
Good, good, because you want to respect the information that has been given to you by your teams, and
100%.
yeah, and you want to grow as much as you can, because you know that growing is fantastic. It's super rewarding, and you're enjoying the profound benefits. I mean, when I met you, you weren't, full of baggage at all. You actually were really balanced, and I was like, this wouldn't be someone who I think is in desperate need of a session. You had some questions about, you just wanted confirmation and you were curious with some stuff, but you weren't really, self-sabotaging your life and being a victim, and you were really already had some beautiful balance. So it was nice, But of course, anyone that does have any problems, these sessions truly are so loving and so helpful, and they don't judge you. Even if you have been self sabotaging your life for decades, the fact that you want to make a change is going to be the most important thing that they're going to focus on, and they'll want to help you make those new choices and those new changes. They're not going to tell you off. They're not your parents. They're not the principal or a school teacher or a boss or a co-worker or a lover or whatever. They're so kinder. And actually, a lot of people who are in self-sabotage mode, they actually find that their subconscious is so much more kinder than they have even been to themselves for a long time. And isn't it, it's so, this is when people will want to block the information, because they're actually hearing and wanting to say nice things about themselves. The subconscious wants to talk about them being, you are an amazing soul. You have an amazing experience and possibilities here. You have learned so much experiences. If you could now overcome them as teachable moments, you could be a profound way shower leader to people who are still choosing to feel so disempowered that they can't believe that a change could occur.
They're so loving. It's like they love us so much. It's It's really incredible. And I think that's why I love the session so much, because I do have that profound connection. I mean, I feel like I'm always connected to them, but then it's like when you're in the sessions and then they come through and then you feel it, and they're just telling you how much they care about you and how much, yeah, they give you like tips on like how to improve yourself. It's like they love us so much. They only want to see us happy and grow. That's all they want for us, really.
I always wonder when I hear clients trying to self sabotage their lives and to feel disempowered. And the subconscious comes in and gives them this beautiful pep talk. And, I've had a few clients where the subconscious says they won't want to listen back to the session. They're not going to change because they still don't believe that they're valuable and that they're worthy
Mm.
of change and that they deserve this love and that they deserve this support. They're still in that and that really refusal to grow and empower themselves because it's so easy once you choose to. And I sort of then talk to the subconscious about this. I'm like, well, are they supposed to be in this self sabotage? And the subconscious is like, no, they were supposed to experience it for a little bit and then make better choices, even though they're not judging better or good or bad or good. It is just, you've had that experience, master it and move on. Don't get stuck. And I feel like a lot of people who are bored do start picking at the faults in their lives. And that's when they almost start going in a looping spiral and start destructing things that don't give them joy.
Right. And it's one of those things too where it can be so easy sometimes, right? I'm just going to go into victim mode. I'm not going to try and help myself, because sometimes it's almost like easier to just sit there and do nothing, right? But at what point and at what level, how unhappy do you want to be? How and the thing about these sessions too is what's so amazing is, I know you've mentioned it before, but it like kind of snaps you out of that 3D mentality, because you're so focused on what's going on in front of you in the 3D, and you're not understanding the bigger picture. And I think you mentioned that in the new earth, they're going to be like, well, why didn't you tell me about the shift earlier? I could have changed things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there's a lot of honesty in conversations when people get to the new earth. And a lot of people who are using fake spirituality but not actually being of service and not being of assistance and not supporting people honestly, and people who are resentful and bitter. I mean, as you were saying, you can read how people feel about you, and it makes, so for example, there's someone that's feeling threatened because they don't look like you, or they don't have the status that you have, or whatever their problems are with you, and they're projecting that so hard onto you because of their resentment. It's not subtle, it's like a brick wall that comes and slaps you around, and you know exactly what's going on. But as you were growing and empowering yourself, you would absorb their judgment and bitterness and jealousy as you've done something wrong. And so, this is where being an empath really shuts down people, because you don't see that it's their choices and their behavior and their problems that they're projecting onto you. You just absorb the issue as if it was something that you were doing wrong. And
Mhm.
this is what you noticed, isn't it? That you were so confident, and you know that you're a really kind person. You know that you've had some experiences and you've grown from them, and that you have unconditional love for all. And even if they did try to throw you some shade or some judgment, you would be able to easily see that this is just a reflection of them. And you would never buy into that negativity as being something you should be ashamed of or feel bad about.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, because when you're an empath, it's like you feel them. They if they want to direct a certain energy towards you, you feel that, and yeah.
And the problem with feeling that is then the empath judges themselves for, why do I think this person's horrible and thinking horrible things about me? I'm such a horrible person to even think like that. What is wrong with me to think that this person's sending me hate? and and so people go into that doubt of, oh, they're not saying. And the worst thing is, and I think some of us have experienced this, when you are dating someone and you're reading them and they are not being honest with you, and you know that they're not being honest with you, but of course you can't prove it because it's all senses. And so you have that awkward conversation because they're not telling you the truth, and yet when people lie, they will lie to lie. They will lie to lie to lie to lie to lie to try to convince themselves of that original lie. When adults are comfortable lying, they will project lying forever. And when you call them out, I've called someone out recently being a liar, and she was, you know, point blank, I never lie. And then it's like, you have to literally show them the screenshots of them uh, being caught in big lies for them to even be willing to discuss their behavior. But it's just, again, bad behavior, projecting lots of issues, and that they can't see themselves because of their egos so inflated, because of their own hurts and blah, 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 blah. It just is an endless cycle of stuff. So, yeah, fun times being an empath and truly reading people. And when we're on the new earth and we all know people's behaviors and we know the truth of everything because we will have that higher insight and we will all know we're reading each other very clearly. There is going to be some people that will feel embarrassed with their behavior. It's like a choice, so it's not, they won't bottom out, but they will be very aware that their lack of faith and understanding of how spirituality is, and that what we will be experiencing with telepathy and profound connections of emotions when we're on the new earth and we are reading each other and recalling our choices in the 3D. Yes, of course, we will all forgive each other, but um, yeah, there's so much to be said about that.
Mhm. And now's a good time to, work on yourself so that you won't be so embarrassed when that happens.
Well, the thing is that most of the people that constantly lie are not embarrassed with their lies. They're not even embarrassed when they get caught out. They're more frustrated. They're more angry that they
Hmm.
get caught out. So
Yeah, because they're exposed.
yeah, so
Hmm.
they become even more like entitled when they get caught out lying. Then instead of apologizing, they will say why they lied, and they will justify their behavior, and blame the victim again. It's really interesting behavior. But the more that we empower ourselves to see why people are behaving in these ways, we can avoid them with love. But
Hmm.
it is interesting to see how, you know, adults can still live comfortably having spirituality in their name, and say all of the spiritual words, but actually have very limited and shallow approaches to life and their belief system. It's just it's interesting. And of course, when you talk to the subconscious, because I can do sessions where I can call in anyone's subconscious to talk to their master guide about anyone, it is really interesting to see, what's going on for them. Nothing's really hidden. And I guess that's, you know, anyway, it's just interesting. It's fun to be able to empower myself and others with this work.
I could definitely say it's incredible. It feels incredible. And it's just, yeah, it's just like having like a greater like awareness of boundaries. And honestly, I've noticed too at the sessions I've been detaching myself emotionally from, for example, like before, I cared a lot about people and what they think, and oh, why doesn't this person like me? Did I do something wrong? What is it about me? And kind of like we were just talking about, but it's like being able to actually detach and like look at the situation neutrally,
Mm.
um, and just understand that it's okay. It's fine. It's not you. Allow them to do what they want. It has nothing to do with you. Just be yourself, and you're good with yourself. You don't need any validation from anyone else.
But on your journey to get to that maturity, did you read someone who judged you for something and then know that they were judging you? And so, did you try to change yourself to be more acceptable to them? So, you changed who you were one way or another to please them so they would not keep giving you this judgment.
Yeah, multiple times. And however, as we progress with sessions, there was less of a need for me to do that. I didn't feel the reason to.
You can see how, say for example, not your relationship but someone's like a romantic relationship where one person was judging the other person, and so the judged person would change who they are. Oh yeah, I totally like baked beans, love them, and then just for example, and then 20 years down the track and the person is like, I don't even know who I am, like I feel like I've changed myself to please others and I've completely lost who my authentic self is. And that's a really heartbreaking one because ultimately they made that choice and decisions to not empower themselves but to be a people pleaser. And
Mhm.
uh, yeah, it's a really, I mean, anyone can change. You can change within seconds. Remember one of the I asked in one of your sessions, when someone wants to change, how quickly could that change be? And I think they sort of said a couple of weeks. And I sort of
Yes.
feel like, um, I think yes, you make the decision today to stop criticizing yourself and criticizing others, and so you will actively keep making that choice not to do it. You'll still be in the routine to do it, so you'll have those little habits and repeats. But I guess after a few weeks, your new habit is fully formed where you will not go into self judgment and judgment of others.
That's how they were conveying it, where it's like you need to almost go through the same situation and overcome it. And a few times you might stumble back and not overcome it. And
Yeah.
it's fine. But then when you realize it, you're like, dang it, I did it again. I'm not doing that next time. It's like that. So, and I can actually say from personal experience, that's actually happened to me, where I was like, dang it, I allowed it to get to me. Why did I do that? I knew I shouldn't have. I'm not going to do it next time. And then I made sure, consciously stopped and like stood there and gave myself a few seconds and was like, nope, not doing
I'm not
it.
going to react like that today.
Not today.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I know that our teams do want us to master it. They will give us something, a hurdle to overcome, and we will do a great job. And then, we will think that we've already overcome that, and then they're like, we'll just do a little test to see how well they do. And we may take the bait and forget about it, but as we know, as we are mastering things, we can overcome them faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And it is, it's profound how much growth we can do as soon as we choose.
Yeah, so true.
So I love it. Yes, so tell us about what you have connected the dots with in terms of the businessman and the buildings.
So, okay, that was interesting because they were showing me many things very quickly, and I was kind of getting thrown in different directions. I was getting almost like I was like trying to like run with them. And from what I remember, and I could be wrong, tell me if I'm wrong or not, they were showing, was it the 9/11 situation first?
Yes, and we hadn't. So people who are listening, I did not tell Sally the two senses of lifetimes that had significance for her. So I only I mean, it's really not professional to do this that way. I just want to say, but because I just knew that there was something we needed to explore, and because even though it was traumatic for Sally to experience it and relive it, she's now healed from it and overcome it. So, yay. But don't expect to go to a practitioner and then them like asking all this other extra stuff. So, don't assume that the sessions you hear would be a normal sessions in terms of what you could be getting, because ultimately the practitioner should only ever be asking questions that you want to explore and have questions about, not be like, so subconscious, was she there at 9/11? Tell me more. Like, like,
But it was weird how it all kind of connected to other things. So it's almost like you were, because remember, the questions are so important in these sessions. The way that you ask a question will expand on an answer only if you ask it a certain way. It's kind of crazy, but that's how it works.
mm-hmm. Fantastic. Crazy is the new cool.
Yeah. um, so, okay. So getting back to that,
Mm-hmm.
it was interesting. I just want to like say a side note real quick too. So when 9/11 happened, I was 14 years old. I was younger. And I actually saw the second plane hit the building on live TV at 6:30 in the morning when I was getting ready for school. And that was just because I was like, what the heck just happened? I just saw something else explode into the building, and I was with my sister. And then yeah, it was like one of those experiences where you're like, oh my gosh, this is like really happening. And then when we did the session, and we are figuring out what I was doing with 9/11, and then I saw, well, I don't know which plane, but I saw one of the planes go to the building, and right before it hit, all of a sudden all these souls flew up from the plane, and then it hit. So literally nobody felt anything. It was boom, they went straight up, and they were all hovering in the air, and they were all confused.
So I did get that that you had two aspects of you dealing with the 9/11 experience. And now you've just said the third, because you actually did see it in real time, you being Sally. I think I also saw the second plane hit as well, live. So
Mm-hmm.
um, so when I was tapping in, not minding my own business, but exploring you, it was, I could see you supporting. I felt like there was a female energy, and you were supporting those to who had shifted, who were not. They were sort of like in shock and trauma, and you've got this amazing calm energy where it felt like you were just supporting them and nurturing them and guiding them in this situation. It almost felt like you were like an angel there, even if they may have seen you physically or not physically, but it felt like you just were this very calm presence for them. And so it didn't surprise me at all what they said in the session, which was, you're helping assist those souls transition. And I thought, well, that's exactly what, I got that sense of. But then Mr. Businessman, who's taking his
Mm.
own exit point with on his own terms, I thought that was really interesting too. I don't think that I did not get that sense, but that's obviously something else that you were doing.
Mm. Yeah, that was interesting and confusing to me because they were showing me, so they were going back and forth between different scenarios. So they were showing me the businessman jumping. Well, first they showed me the 1930s guy that was getting roughed up on the top of a rooftop by two men and then pushed off. And then they go to I want to say they go to the businessman in 9/11 who jumps because it's the same. This is what confused me. It was like the same man, but he wanted to redo it because he didn't like the fact that he was pushed off. He wanted to do it himself on his terms.
Yeah, I know that it was like they couldn't understand the motives for him, and they were trying to figure out like what is his motives here because he knows he will die, but it's like there's almost like he's pleased. He had this almost like finally my terms kind of,
Yes.
which it almost confused them, your teams talking about it because it so they couldn't work it out. So then they're like, okay, where is this connection from? Why is he wanting to redo this in his own terms and have control over it? And then, go back to that other connection, which is the 1930s businessman.
Mm-hmm. And then right after that, they threw me into the next one where the man was running across the bridge in the jungle, a native from South America, it looked like. And then this man was it was like he was trying to kill him, and then he somehow was like holding on to the bridge. He got him somewhere where he was like literally holding on, about to die, and then stepping on his fingers. And I was just trying to understand like what is the connections with all these three things. I'm very confused by it. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was awkward when there was a current lifetime partner involved there, and I just thought, oh, shoot, this is awkward.
And the funny thing was, I don't think I've ever asked if I've had another lifetime with my partner or not. I don't remember
They
asking.
did say, I do remember that. It was like your second or third session, and they said a few, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. And it's like, oh,
Mm.
that doesn't sound like happy days. you know,
Wow.
sometimes they're like, we're not going to talk about this right now.
Yeah, it's like, she's not ready. She'll look at him differently.
And so instead of them lying to us, they will just be like, nope, this is not what she is ready for this session. Thank you very much for asking. Try again next week.
Yeah, I mean, I could see, people be like, "What?" But actually, It was funny because like the feeling I got in the session was laughing because it was almost like how funny, because then that means what? Paying back karma.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, so, beautiful, not judging, obviously.
Mm-mm.
So
Never.
I'm glad that you're mature because could you imagine a bitter wife getting out of that session like, just you wait till my husband gets home. I'm going to.
I'm gonna repay him.
Have you ever stomped on his fingers at all by any chance, accidentally on purpose?
Yeah, it's and it was weird because I've had that dream of the Native American, or the Native man, um running across the bridge. I think it was me. See, that's why I got so confused because they weren't telling me if it was a parallel life or if it was me or not.
It was you. It was not a parallel life.
Yeah. I mean, I know. So then the man in the building was a parallel life then, like that went down in 9/11?
Nope, that was the parallel life was the man in 9/11, but the
Hmm.
1930s life is not a parallel life. That was you.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I experienced because I literally was in the body. The 1930s man, I was in the body. I was experiencing getting thrown off. I was experiencing feeling like okay, it's scary looking up as I'm falling. I'm going to face the ground because at least I know where I'm going and it's less scary for me. And that's the thought that went across the man's mind when he was falling. And the exact same thought the native man had when he was pushed off and was falling off the bridge. It was just, and it was the exact same thing before the impact. I didn't feel anything in the dreams, never felt anything. But right before I know I was going to hit, everything turns black and then white, bright, bright white.
Mm. Need to explore that bright white light more, I think.
Right, right. Yeah.
Mm.
Because I found it interesting. It happened exactly in both of them, exact same pattern.
I do want to explore that more because I feel like there is would be interesting things. Anyway, okay, well, that's very, very cool. And I know that you have balance with the laser, and it was one of your questions where you were like, oh, if they want to talk to us about something about the laser or old Earth or new Earth, I'm all cool with it. And so I just sort of jotted down laser, new Earth, old Earth, and so that's what I sort of asked in this session to see, if there was any differences now. I mean, we feel like we feel like things have changed, but it's just in terms of it being extended, and we know that we just seem to keep getting more and more extensions on things as humanity is still slow to evolve into the right experience to be ready for the best outcome of all. So tell me what you felt when they started laughing about the laser.
It's almost like embarrassment. 'Cause I was like, you guys are laughing right now? Gosh, like
Yeah,
that's not.
I felt like, because I didn't really hear much of the laughing, but I could sense that they sort of laughed at like, oh gosh, yeah, there's no avoiding that. But then I could feel from their responses that you were sort of like quite shocked with their laughing because you were like, this is sensitive. We're not to laugh at this. This is a really uncomfortable situation for many who are going to be very surprised about this event. And then they realized, oh whoops, sorry, we're not trying to be insensitive. But I know it wouldn't have been you laughing about the laser at all. And so, you know, we have, at this point, we've seen so much proof of these sessions. We just trust it's a matter of when, not if. And so I understand that they, you know, did find what I was asking hysterical.
Yeah, they did because they were like, because I listened to it back. Of course, I listened to my sessions back, and it was like I remember what they were showing me, and it was almost like they were like, come on, like we've said this again and again. Yes, it's gonna happen. It was almost kind of like they were like patting the head, like, oh, you sweet little you sweet little dear for asking again. But I mean, it's almost like a parent to a child. I can't explain it, but it was like a very loving energy. But it was like, oh my gosh, like if you only knew like the real reason or the big picture here, if you only saw what we see, you would understand why. And it was just amusing to them. I mean, in these sessions, we know that they laugh about stuff, and we're like, what? Like I'm crying and you're laughing at me, but they're not really laughing at us. They're just laughing about the situation to them because it's almost like they don't have that same emotion attached to it.
Hmm. Yeah, they can't see why we would cry over someone else's experience. or take it so seriously. How many times have we heard that? Oh my gosh, you guys take it so seriously. And it's
Yeah.
we are very emotional beings. This is the whole deal with 3D. This is the experience in 3D is the all of the range of emotions. We thought it would have been fun and hysterically interesting and diverse and it can be quite traumatizing. And like what we're asking for is, we still have hope that humanity is going to improve itself and not need these profound big experiences. Ultimately, that's what every light worker should be hoping for, is that we all can find unity and find our moral compasses, profoundly love each other and others, and have that real strong community feel. And I don't want anyone to ever lose hope in that, even though sometimes we have to look really hard to find it.
Yes. And it also brings up, so what they were saying about detaching emotionally from things and from people, I thought was so important too, because they were saying you're not a bad person for emotionally detaching. And you can still love people the same. And what I got out of it too was you're also not putting your value of yourself based on how others see you, because I feel like we tend to do that as people. And I think that really trips people up a lot because they're like, well, they're almost like judging themselves based on how others see them. And I think detaching from that is important because there you go. Like that's how you find your self-love. You don't look to others for validation.
Yes, because as we were discussing before, when you look for others for validation, then you morph into what you think other people need you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then that adds false responsibilities and false everything onto us as we're trying to pretend to be certain people. When, like, I've had many sessions with many parents who say, I worked so hard to be a parent and I love my children, but I'm not friends with my children. Like, we got different interests, and I still care about them deeply, but they're not, they just have different relationships with their different children. They almost find it hard to even admit that they have favorite children. And so then they feel bad because they have a disproportionate relationship with their children. And then when you ask in sessions in the subconscious, like, why is her love and attention and appreciation for her children at different levels? Of course, it's always purposeful, and they tell us why. Um, but it seems like so many parents worry that their least favorite child is going to be bitter and resentful and really angry with them when they find out that mother just tolerated you, she wasn't in love with like, I mean, I'm exaggerating for that, but it always turns out that they had a beautiful relationship in another lifetime that was so beautiful, so profound, met all of their unconditional loving needs, and this lifetime they wanted something different. And so there is that on purpose wedge. And so instead of feeling so bad and responsible that you don't love your children equally, trust that there is significance. Those children that you do connect in with more, there's a whole bunch of reasons why. And it's not because you're a horrible parent, and certainly not because you're a failure as a parent. You are a human being who is allowed to have their own tastes and opinions and thoughts and feelings. And even if it contradicts everyone else around you, this is part of your empowerment, and self work is being okay and loving who you are. You're not being hurtful to others. You're just making choices and choosing to do the best for you. And we know those people who are just in our lives, just there's a difference between like a soul family member versus, say, an acquaintance, even if they're your children. And we put labels on ourselves and we assume we have all these responsibilities to be something that we may not necessarily have to or should be. And I love it's like liberation for many parents when they listen to these sessions and have their own sessions and find out it's totally okay. You don't have that really close connection to that child, because this is exactly what needs to happen for all those lessons. Could you stop kicking yourself around and feeling like you're a terrible person because you're doing exactly what your life contracts were about?
Wow. So I mean, I've never heard of that with, but there's, like we say, everything has a purpose. It's all purposeful. So,
Yeah. But it
wow.
seems like when people don't understand the purpose, then they'll want to go into blame. And they will blame themselves for things not being what they think is idyllic.
Hmm.
If you've already had 100 lives of perfect relationships with these people and you wanted a change because this is the last lifetime you guys are going to be having on earth, it's purposeful. That disconnect is purposeful. So many people can't understand why they don't have loving, supportive parents, and then in the session it says they were just to bring you here. And the hardship of you not being loved by your family was to make you from a very early age be empowered by yourself, be responsible for self. And a lot of people who have smothering parents find it really hard to stand up on their own because it's so much easier to have it done by others.
Yep. Almost like a crutch in a way.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so we can just trust that while we may not see the bigger purpose and have all the connections and all of the parallel and past lifetime information, that allowing ourselves to feel and be who we are and try to find our balance and neutral. What really was interesting, which came out of a session recently, was when they say love ourselves, they're saying love all parts of ourselves, not just all physical parts of our bodies, but like every day that we've lived. And so if we're still kicking our bottoms because we failed that exam, or we weren't kind to that person at one time when we overreacted, or whatever, having to accept that we made all those choices and have balance and neutral and accept we made those choices. I can love myself still and not beat myself up today for a choice that I made 25 years ago. And I think when they say love yourself, they're just talking about who you are today. And who you are today is fantastic. Really, everyone who listens to these sessions, I think, are really mature with their growth in spirituality, and they really want to make a difference and impact humanity in a really beautiful way in preparation for the shift and on the new earth. That's amazing. But is there something you're still blaming yourself or others about on your 3D journey in this lifetime? And that is part of the inner work, and that is part of loving yourself, is accepting what has gone on. And especially those times where the children have felt really alone and neglected and abused. We know what happened to us as children. And so it is our responsibility to go and feel into that child again and say, we're safe now. We're okay now. Like, I'm never going to let that happen to you. In fact, I've always worked really hard to never let us feel that ever again. And sometimes just a quick little dialogue conversation with that can really make that child that still is living. We all have 1-year-olds, we all have 2-year-olds, we all have 3-year-old versions of us, and up until the fantastic age that we are now. And it's almost like just check in. Are we okay? The year that our parents divorced, are we okay? The year we left home, are we okay? And it's just, you'll know when you have some meditative time where those little sticking points are. It may just be one or two things. You don't have to remember every single day. It's not even possible. But if you really are genuinely wanting to make sure that you're not limiting yourself or not been impacted still from this lifetime, just have a little moment to love yourself and really just check in with your team and see if there is anything that's outstanding.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's like an overdue book.
It's late.
That portion of your inner work is overdue. There's a fine. And there is a fine, there is a penalty because you're not able to release it because you're not just taking those minutes to just check in and see if there is anything still sticking. So we don't want to have any of that density. We want to learn as much lessons and see things from a bigger perspective while supporting ourselves.
Very true. Yep. Very, very true. Um, it's interesting how like things, even in like little moments as a young person, like stick with you and impact you even up to this point because you just pushed it down like, oh, that was nothing, you know?
Mm. Yeah. I definitely think it was I just think while we're here, and if those people are really bored and want to shift, like let's just keep you busy. Let's just keep you busy and thinking about how you can empower yourself and others. And it is we keep hearing when things start kicking off, there's not that much time. It doesn't seem like when the first sort of events start taking place for the final sort of bigger shifts, the more larger location shifts and those events, it isn't month. It's I don't think it. I mean, it was going to be around so like 2 years, I think, or something. But the old Earth experience is very shorter now, and um, while we are having, in quotation marks, our normal lives, I mean, yes, some things can impact us, but if we're creative, we can get away with, not wearing masks and other sort of things, um, whatever gives us joy, and enjoying the days we do have. Who knows how long we have, but enjoying enjoying being able to do our inner work without everything else around us, falling down around us, would it feels like that's just a lot of extra challenges, and
Oh
so
yeah.
doing it
Mhm.
doing it more now to be of true service for those who are staying on the old earth would be very beneficial.
Yeah, it's like empowering yourself now, and being able to practice it
Yeah.
at this point, versus doing it when everything is just so chaotic. I mean, that'd be pretty difficult to start doing it at that point. I'm sure it could still be done. I'm sure many people could still do it, but just giving yourself time to practice. I think that's what really helps because it's not just. I mean, I've been working on myself for a long time, and I feel like there's still triggers. I'm still doing my inner work,
Mm.
and the
Well,
sooner you start, the sooner you get results.
and you're like getting extra credits because you're going into all the other lifetimes that have still impacting you in one way or another. And so, you're very, very diligent with, seeing you want to clear everything as much as you can. And this is what a lot of collectives are wanting for everyone, is to, really address everything. And yeah, it's when we're having conversations with people, the collectives can get away with being like, and everything's purposeful. Like, that doesn't really mean much when we're having a conversation with someone. And so, when someone's freaking out to you about the laser event, saying it's just purposeful is not going to help them. And so,
No.
instead of us saying, "Oh, this is part of the shift to the new earth," It may just be it is purposeful what is happening. I really have to believe it, and I have to trust that there is a positive purpose for all, because it's just it has to be that case. So let's have a conversation about what the significance and the positive experiences are. I guess the laser event's going to be a very challenging one to have find positive purpose when it initially happens. I mean, we've all experienced the event of September 11. If someone tried to tell me on that day, oh, it's all purposeful, it's for positive, I would have probably just been outraged of their audacity to be so ridiculous when many people had died. So yeah, it's going to be very challenging for us, but very easy for us to have compassion and love each other who are going through the shock of this, because potentially they have been reminded of something from another lifetime that we may not have even explored. A big event in history. Maybe a lot of people were dinosaurs and they were shocked by the asteroid, or I don't know. Like, the laser has to be significant for many reasons, and I don't think we've explored all of the possibilities of um, is this going to help people overcome trauma from past lifetimes, and if so, what would that look like, and was it off planet?
Mm-hmm. And that makes so much sense, actually, because then it'll help many very quickly who have not had the opportunity to do so otherwise, So it's like, here we go, last part of it. You're going to finish this right now, So I totally understand. It's like, it's hard. It's hard because it's like, I understand why they are deciding on it. And it's like what Aaron was saying, like none of this would stop. Like, it's almost like we have to be, I don't know what the right word is, but it's almost like something big has to occur to shake people awake, because we're just continuing on with day-to-day stuff. And it's like people are just so in their 3D life, they're not even looking up anymore, So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I wish it won't happen. I don't want it to happen, obviously.
Yeah. Neither. I just know it's going to add so much more trauma while people are in the 3D,
Yeah.
and it just sort of feels like, gosh, we're already surrounded by so much trauma. How could trauma upon trauma release us from that? But we just trust that it does. It does. We just can't see all of the significances and purposes of it. The interesting thing with movies is that because it's so, I was going to say, it's not real. We know movies are fake, right? We obviously do. But the body doesn't. And so while we're watching, asteroids hit the planet, and this concept of all this sort of stuff, and we see all the destruction, we see all the special effects of big impacts on the world and it rippling out. This is making us feel things about that movie, even though it's not impacting our true individual personal lives that moment that we're watching it. Our bodies are still processing it, and our emotions are still processing it at some level. And so therefore those people who have trauma from asteroids hitting other planets and destroying them, they are healing and releasing their trauma. I read quite a few people really, really, really upset about that movie, that it really upset them, bothered them, and triggered them profoundly. And I just thought, this is something that they're overcoming from other trauma. But because they may not know of all their other lifetimes, they would never think, oh, I'm traumatized by this movie because of that lifetime on this planet, on that planet, on the other planets that no longer exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's super interesting, because it's just, there's so much. And I think you mentioned it too, like we don't realize how much our past lives and parallel lives really do impact us.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And we know that in sessions, they always give us the most appropriate lifetime to overcome. Oh, Sally, listening back to your session, I was wondering what was the significance of the little girl who was playing in the snow and then dying and then feeling guilty to leave the parents behind? And it was like, huh, did you figure out the significance of that when you listened back to the full session?
So what I got was she felt guilty for hurting them because they were crying because she died, and she felt bad, like it was her fault. And the weird thing is I resonated so much with that because I I tend to, I mean, I guess you could say people pleaser is kind of like describes sometimes my personality. And if I accidentally ever caused someone to get hurt, whether it was me or not, it might not have ever been me, but I just took it on like it was me. I would feel so bad. Like, did I do something wrong? I resonated with it. And especially as a child, because I grew up with many siblings, and my mother and we had a certain kind of relationship where I was blamed for whatever, but it was always me. So it was kind of like one of those weird things where as a young child, it was my fault always in some way. And I don't know, it resonated with that.
I thought as much, but I also thought it was really interesting then to be a mother who then lost a child and have
Mm-hmm.
that flip side. And it kind of seemed like obviously the child who died did not feel guilty. The boy, he was quite
Not
comfortable.
at all.
Yeah, quite fine with that. Thanks, bye. Um, so yeah, it was interesting to see the flip side of it because the emotions of the mother, um, there's that guilt as well. It's a repeated guilt because she felt like she should have protected her son and she should have known and she should have done something, something, something. And there's all this other impacts. I just thought the you being the child who died and then you being the mother who had a child die, I sort of thought it's both sides of the coin. And it was just very interesting, and maybe I was reading too much into it, but I thought it was so intriguing that they brought that session up, sorry, that lifetime up in the early part of the session for then us to explore the boy leaving and having his exit point and you being the mother and on the other side of that grief. It was very interesting.
Yeah, the guilty feeling definitely came up. And it was, these sessions are so amazing because it's like we just go in not knowing what to expect, and it just unfolds like a story. And it's like, whoa, like the information they give out, I was like, whoa, this is a lot to take in right now, especially when they're describing about the buildings and what was really going on with that. I was like, oh my gosh. And the hairs on my neck and my body were standing up, and I was like getting goosebumps. And it was just like and the way that they describe things, it's like, gosh, like they go into detail, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And a critic could be like, "Oh, they're just reading from a script, or they're making it all up." But Sally and I know that we don't really talk much about the stuff beforehand. We're just too excited when we do get together to just jump into the session. So Sally will just give me the questions that she's pondering. I'll make some notes, and then I will suddenly, as we're talking, something else will pop into my mind, and that's how the session goes. And then we get to talk about it afterwards because I don't want to feed Sally any information. And then, Sally, you're a man who jumped out of 9/11. Okay, got it? And, like, that's pointless. I would find that so bullshit, boring, and fake. And there's nothing in there. And um, That's why I didn't even tell you about the two senses that I got about a lifetime with Buddha, and then helping people become in the event of 9/11. And so it's incredible what does come out of the sessions, because I'm obviously not even prepared for it. And when I listen back to the sessions now, I'm like, oh, I could have asked this, I could have asked that, I could have expanded on this more. But at the time, I feel like I'm also in a like a trance like state, and I think um, I try to focus on the bigger perspective rather than going into the smaller little details of, well, tell me, what does your son look like who is dying in your arms? Like, I don't see that helping you. Like, I just trust whatever they're showing you is enough for you. And I do not want to be that nosy Parker who is, over traumatizing my clients, because, it's hard enough. You already were so emotional, and very justifiable. And the thing is, if it was nonsense for the critics, I mean, you're a bloody good actor, because those emotions made me cry. And emotions are you can feel true emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when I would hear back the session, I would automatically start crying again because I could feel the pain coming from the voice, and there's codes and there's energies in the videos. And so it's like, you can feel it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting because we just ask questions with what I want to ask, and then we just go ahead and do it. And I have so much trust and faith in my team that they will give me whatever I need to know, and they will let me see whatever I need to know. And it just gives me more empowerment going in, just having nothing except just a question, and then having them give the information out, because that right there is empowerment. That right there is knowing the connection's real. That right there is knowing the subconscious is talking. And the best feeling in the world is knowing the truth.
Mm.
And that right there is truth.
Mm.
There's no faking that.
Yeah, yeah. And ultimately, do we care what other people think about these sessions? No. These sessions are for you to heal and grow from and expand and explore from. And we also get to hear some other information from, future events as well, which is always helpful to see things from their perspective. So, the fact that you listened to the session today and you're still crying from it, I still feel like it's a releasing, because you experienced the session the other day. Listening back to it was you able to apply it and release it. I think if you listen back to it again, you won't feel that emotion as you have had. And this is why they want us to listen to the sessions many times, to be able to grow and expand from it and heal from it. Ultimately, they want us to heal from all of the density and the traumas that we've experienced on our life journey.
Yeah, and releasing, it's not going to happen that very second. Sometimes it's a little bit of a process, because you got to, sometimes people just are like, oh my gosh, did that really happen? And they're kind of in denial. And it's like, in order to release it, you really got to accept the information and trust that your team is giving you that information for you to heal, because they love you so much. It's coming from a place of love.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's incredible. It's such an incredible journey. And I would just say, for if people could find interns and want to just do sessions, start doing it. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't be disappointed if they don't give you bigger information about coming events, because if you've got inner work still in your closet, they will be pulling that out to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause like, first you got to look at these clothes right here that you haven't worn in over a decade. Do you really need these?
You're still holding on to them as if they're going to go into style, or something you're going to be able to fit into those skinny jeans. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Those shoes have holes. You can get rid of them.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, the one thing I wanted to talk about, because I haven't talked about it publicly, is we did get information about a big event coming, and it is not an asteroid, and it's not the laser event. That's something else. And I did ask about it in Sally's session, just to see if they wanted to discuss it in public. And they said no. And we can respect that. And we can also understand that when you evacuate a whole planet, there is a lot of things that need to happen, and in every area. And we can't control it, or we can't stop it, or we can accept it and be mature about it. And that's really what they're wanting us to be as we are moving forward in 2022.
Yep. New year. Incredible.
Incredible. I have had such an incredible year, which is, I think, so profound to say, given the status of what the world's going through, and for me to have the biggest growth and the biggest maturity and the biggest perception. And I have been really proud of my growth, and I I really love that I'm not being triggered by 3D, because I know that 3D could have eaten me alive.
Right. Right. And yeah, it's like even last year, I mean, I was, I mean, yeah, 3D is pretty crazy here. And in the past couple months, I would say I've received so much more growth and inner peace, especially. That's a big one for me, inner peace. And that makes me so happy and grateful and thankful that I did this, that I worked in this way with myself. Ugh, I mean, that's like the best gift, honestly, is inner peace.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard work. We could always have choices to let 3D eat us alive if we wanted
Hmm.
to. And, you know, that is not what we have chosen, really. We wanted to master it and to overcome it and empower ourselves through it. And I think most of us are doing a fantastic job with that. And so, you know, 3D, if we want it to, it can, really take us offline if we want. It's all choices.
Yes, yes. Yep. Make the choices. I mean, I feel like I feel like some people choose things because they feel like it's out of obligation, but it doesn't make them, happy. It doesn't help them in any way. And I think sometimes it's just a matter of looking at it like, I mean, do you really want to feel this way anymore, or do you really want to take control and, you know,
Yeah,
be happier?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're not judging if you enjoy density and having problems and being distracted, and if that gives you joy, truly gives you joy, then we're not going to judge you for it. But when most people are honest about their reactions and behaviors, having the inner peace is truly where the party is at.
It's a fun party, let me tell you. And we have so many openings, and we're ready to receive more people here.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it's just it's all when it's the right timing. I think when people don't believe in themselves enough, then they will block and limit it, and kind of don't they don't think that they deserve it. And that's what the collectives struggle with. Why can't you remember how amazing you are? Why can't you remember that this is all just a? Remember in your session when they said it's a game, but it's a serious game, but it's a game? Or
Hmm.
was that a kiddie session? I can't remember.
I think it was Kitty session. They were just saying it's not real. Like in mine, the boy was saying this isn't real. Like,
Hmm.
hello.
Yeah,
It is like a game. It's like a game. It's not real.
a game of experiences and lessons, and we want to explore as much as we can and master it. And that's, I think, where we're at that exciting point where we're quite happy to face our fears and face our problems and stuff. And okay, well, I think we could wrap it up, because I feel like we can always talk for hours, my friend, about this marvelous experience. Was there any other information you wanted to share about your session that you had?
Just that, I trusted, I surrendered, and I just felt like we were given so much information, and I hope it impacted people positively and expanded, some awareness, hopefully.
Well, for those people who have other lifetimes that have similar experiences, just listening and growing through going through your own journey, it could actually have helped and healed them. They don't have to have the same lifetimes, but a similar emotion, a similar experience can truly heal people. And it is extraordinary when we want to hear things and learn things from the bigger perspective. We can then release and learn and grow. And it's just about the information. Wisdom is, having knowledge of this higher perspective is profound, because while we think we're just listening to your journey and of your healing, for those people who, unbeknownst to them, have something similar, you could have easily healed from that too, and may have had a little tear, and felt like, wow, that's a really bigger insight. This is why some of the movies people are watching are profoundly healing them too, from releasing them from trauma and overcoming it. It's all significant, it's all purposeful, and our teams are forcing us to experience these lessons, to be able to see things from the bigger perspective, to learn from and grow from. And even though we're safe listening to your journey because it really shouldn't impact us, we're putting ourselves in a position where we could be impacted as we learn and grow as well. And I feel like, from how you said that the sessions are purposely public for not just entertainment and not just for your own personal growth, which is profound, and I'm so impressed by you all the time, but it's for everyone that listens to it as well. They get the opportunity, and we know that the teams will push people to listen to sessions who are going to who will have the most impact from them. And so I love that. I love being able to be of service this way. And I just want to say to people that I promise I'll keep trying my best to be able to get as much different experiences to help us all overcome certain experiences and lessons. And I still am very compassionate and dedicated to helping you all, even if we don't ever have a session together. These sessions are gifts from our collectives, and I feel so honored and so humbled and so grateful to be able to be of service for you all.
Yes, I agree with you. I don't want to cry right now. Yeah.
I feel everyone's love and respect, and it just always brings me to tears. And I just want to honor everyone who loves and respects me in this work. I feel you, I honor you, and I'm so grateful to be able to be of assistance. I truly, truly, truly am. All right. Well, goodness me, one day there will be a session where I don't cry. Okay, well, I love you all, and we will chat again soon.